Well, since nobody else is around me, I guess I'll do the intro right now. But good morning. We're doing the Avalanche Fundamentals course today. We just kind of got done digging pits and whatnot. But I don't know what the point of the video is going to be, but probably more informational than anything. I won't be talking a whole lot. So enjoy it. It's been a fun course so far. I think we're going to go do some avalanche rescue stuff right now.
Cool. Punchy. So we talked about the weather a little bit. Briefly mentioned snowpack, but one of the more important things that we can actually control is the terrain. And so with our, we talk about like a recipe for an avalanche. You need the snowpack to be poor, right? You need a slab on top of weak snow. Strong snow, weak snow. Like, think of avalanches like strong snow on top of weak snow to start with. That's a good place to start. Then you have weather. So if we have kind of some of those things, do you guys recall what I mentioned earlier about maybe some red flags that we're looking out for with the weather? Wind, like increasing winds.
It doesn't get below freezing for a couple days.
Yep, for sure. Rapid warming or doesn't get below freezing. Avalanches for sure. Increasing snow. So if it's snowing constantly, or if it's increasing while you're out, heads up for sure. If the winds pick up, or they have been picking up, and when we're talking about wind, we're talking like, we're talking about how is the snow being transported, and is it creating a slab? Is it creating that stiffer snow that we want to look out for? So that you're looking at like starting around that 10 mile an hour range, 10 to 15. I'd say ideal slab formation is kind of in like that 15, 25, 30 mile per hour, and like constant wind. And you start getting too high, and the snow kind of just like it still can create slabs for sure, but that ideal touchy slab formation is kind of around 15 to 25 to 30. That sort of range. So weather, snowpack. What's the snowpack doing? We'll discuss that in a bit. We'll dig in the snow, take a look, and there's some different tests we can do to assess the snowpack as we're moving. But the one thing that we can control is what terrain we choose to ski. And so we talk about red light, yellow light, green light terrain, or snowpack, or weather. And that's just something we assign to make it kind of easy. Like, okay, if it's snowing a ton and there's a bunch of wind, that's going to be like red light weather, right? We're likely not going to go into steep alpine terrain if we got red light weather. If the snowpack's super poor and we're hearing collapsing and one thing and seeing shooting cracks, there's some red light snowpack right there. And then, you consider red light terrain anything that's avalanche terrain. So at what slope angle do we start to think about like where avalanches might happen?
37 degrees.
37 is actually pretty steep. That's where most avalanches, the highest percentage of like avalanche accidents occur is kind of in that 38 degree, because that's some of the fun of skiing. That's like our double black diamond. But avalanches can actually occur, they start around 30 degree slopes. That's where we start considering that to be red light terrain. There are some instances where it happens at lower slope angles with like slush avalanches in the Brooks Range or something like that. But what we really want to be aware of is like, if we're starting to get into 30 degree terrain, we really need to be aware of like conditions and the potential for avalanches. Along with slope angle, some important things to think about are aspects. Like what aspect are we going to be skiing? Like a lot of times, like, oh, we love like nice cold north-facing snow, that oftentimes can be some of the more dangerous snow conditions, though, because they haven't seen the sun to help them heal, and we'll sit there, and if there's long cold spells, the snow can kind of rot out and get super weak, and then you get more snow on top of that. It can be super dangerous. Also for springtime, what aspects do you guys think might be important to think about? South-facing aspects, yeah. So like in the spring, you know, Alaskans super happy. We're seeing the sun all the time. The sun's super strong, super warm. It's been a long, cold winter, but yeah, that sun starts to get real strong real quick, kind of that end of February, March, and can really heat up the snow really quickly. So paying attention to southerly aspects during the springtime is super important. There's one with, so another part of aspects that I always think about too is like, has to do with wind direction. Which way is the wind blowing? Because wherever the wind's blowing, you know, it's going to pick up snow. Say it's blowing towards us this way, pick up snow on the back side of that ridge, deposit it on this side of the ridge, and that's where we're concerned about, like where wind slabs can start forming. So yeah, if you guys kind of look up right behind us here in this gully, you can kind of see some evidence of some wind loading on the edge of that gully, right? You have kind of a stripped ridge, you know, not too stripped, but it's a little more bare, right? And you kind of see those little ripples and wind lips and stuff kind of all along the gully. It's kind of a heads up when you start seeing stuff like that, like, oh, okay, there might be some wind loading right there. So you're kind of looking for those clues. Additionally, with terrain, we have these things. Have you guys heard of terrain traps? Yeah. So like a gully, great example of a terrain trap. So if you think about that, it's this basically like, you know, this choke point where snow can pile up super quickly and can be super dangerous. You want to try to avoid terrain traps in general when we're traveling, when we're skiing, you know, and if you are approaching these terrain features, you want to be like pretty heads up and diligent about how you travel safely. Because, like, you know, say you're skiing along, you know, say there's more snow, first of all, and you're skiing along the edge here and you trigger a wind lip or wind slab and it just pushes you over into the gully. Well, it doesn't have to be that much snow to pile up pretty quickly and bury you. And this can happen in creeks. This can happen in like abrupt benches too. So you could be skiing a nice slope and it could just flatten out really quick, and that snow can pile up pretty quickly right there. So kind of being aware of that, super important, especially when you're traveling, and especially when you're traveling uphill, because you know, the skiing portion is pretty quick, and it's always important to obviously pay attention to what you're skiing. But when you're traveling, walking uphill, it takes a lot longer time, so you're exposed for a much greater time period. So choosing safe travel routes and terrain selection is super key. It's the one thing that we can control as skiers. We can't control the weather, we can't control the snowpack. We still want to ski, we still want to have fun, so we can control which terrain we select. And, you know, depending on what the snowpack's doing and what the weather has done, it will drastically alter like what our terrain selection is. So yeah, recipe for avalanches: weather, snowpack, terrain, and then you need us, humans, kind of in the middle of that triangle. You need a trigger. You need something to like affect the snow so that it starts sliding. Sometimes that's just enough snow to get loaded on the slope that is enough weight to just trigger one naturally, but oftentimes it's a skier, you know, pushing energy into the snow that will start that whole process. So yeah, when you're traveling, and even before you get out, you know, part of your whole process should be, in addition to looking at the weather, the forecast, assessing the snowpack, you're kind of assessing your travel route too before you get out here. You want to, like, have you guys used any kind of mapping tools at all ever?
Backcountry,
like
Onyx Backcountry.
Onyx is a good one. Yeah, CalTopo is another good one. Google Maps is another good one. But looking at different, you can get these different shading layers, and looking at different slope angles before you even go out can really help you decide where you want to go, so that you're not just kind of blindly walking out onto the mountains. And then having that also, like, as a part of your touring process, the planning stage, like having a plan A, having a plan B, and having, you know, maybe plan C is that we just don't go skiing today, and that's okay. It's more important to survive, right? So as we're traveling, you know, as we're walking around in general, kind of be looking up, looking around, seeing where steep terrain might be, where there's terrain traps, how you might travel up a ridgeline or something. You know, it's like, are we gonna go in the middle of the gully over there and travel under some of those wind lips and stuff? Probably not, right? Like we want to kind of avoid terrain traps. So yeah, just think about those things as we're traveling, and being aware of them. And then also, as you're traveling, like kind of doing some tests as we're walking around. Like we want to feel. It's all about gathering information. We're walking around, feeling the snow. You know, we're doing pole plants. You know, push on the snow. It's like, oh, that's pretty firm. And then all of a sudden you punch through. It's like, well, maybe that was strong snow over weeks ago. You can also turn your pole over and kind of push on the snow and just feeling it under your skis, feeling what things are doing. Like just really being in tune with what's going on. So I know this is fire hose stuff, but
I mean, it's kind of surprising, even with right where you are. I would have thought it would have been more stable, and then it just did like a little mini.
Yeah, and that oftentimes can happen with like these alders and foliage and stuff too. It creates a lot of airspace, which then basically allows snow to become weaker, because it has room for those snow grains to grow into and facet and become, you know, weak. So it can be surprising, but you know, that also happens around rocks too, like cliff bands and stuff. Can be a lot more shallow and what we would call trigger points, where you're more likely to probably trigger an avalanche. You know, being aware of those terrain features is super important for sure. You know, and we talk about trees being anchors sometimes, like anchoring the snow to the mountain as well. Unfortunately, trees really don't act as very good anchors unless the skiing is bad, you know? So if the trees are spread out enough for it to be good skiing, it's probably not a good anchor. But if you have a whole slope that's completely covered in spruce trees, it's like, and you can't ski through it, it's probably good anchors. Cool. Any questions so far?
I got one. I've heard, like you said, the snow is weaker where it's shallower.
Basically, what's happening is like you'll get these. How do I explain this without getting too sciencey? So the ground is warm. The ground is generally like 32 degrees is what we consider, and after that, like, unless the air is 32 degrees, the snow is gonna like not get wet and turn into water. So if you have long periods of prolonged like cold clear nights and you have a shallow snowpack, the heat within the snowpack is basically like radiating into the air, and when that happens, it affects the snow grains, and the snow grains will basically instead of staying this kind of nice we call them rounds, but basically rounded snow grains that are more stable, they turn into kind of these sugary faceted stuff, and like basically the heat is being sucked out of the snow and it's turning into this like angular weak snow grain. Yeah, it's like science. It's like a scientific process in which the snow is like actually changing its shape. And so when there's a thinner snowpack, that process is able to happen like a lot deeper, basically. Yeah.
So it basically turns in the snow to that like super cold stuff you can't pack a snowball with.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you can kind of pack a snowball, that's kind of what you're looking for as far as stable snow. But you get in there and you get these bunch of sugar that you can't even turn into a snowball. That's like generally weaker snow. And we'll look at that. We'll dig a hole and take a look too. And that process is also able to happen a little bit more easily when you have that airspace too, because when the snow is like rounded, tight, and compact, it doesn't really have room to grow out and become big and weak, So when you're near rocks or these trees and stuff, it creates that airspace for it to kind of like grow and get bigger and weaker.
So facets are bad, rounds are good.
Right, yeah. Facets are gonna be your weak snow, rounds are gonna be your strong snow. But rounds are also important too, because that's like what slabs are made out of. So you have that strong snow over that weak snow, and that's your dangerous recipe right there. So, cool. Trying to get walking again here too. Maybe move towards that cat trap. That's where all those kids are going. Yeah, if you have any questions at any point, definitely feel free. We'll start. We'll kind of practice some travel techniques. Then we'll take a look at the snow, dig around in it, try to do some tests, show you some basic tests that you can do in addition to your travel tests, and then we'll do some rescue drills. But yeah, as you're walking, like it's really easy to get kind of tunnel vision and just stay on the skin track and be like, like this is the best way to get up to the ridge line. I want to go ski that. But I would recommend getting off the trail and trying to get to snow that's been unaffected by skiers or anything else to prod around and feel it. And they can kind of just be quick tests, but again, the more information we're gaining, the more information we'll have to like make an appropriate decision on what we want to ski. Cool. Everybody ready to kind of start moving here? You have these at all? Or you can also use your phone. There's a couple of different apps to measure angles, but basically what we're doing is like as we're traveling.
Oh, I forgot about that. Wait, where were they? Oh, right there.
They're up there, yeah.
Oh.
Doing some control work, trying to get some avalanches going.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
So
no, it's all
you
good.
can do it on your phone?
You can do it on your phone. There are some apps that have ways to measure angles. I personally prefer this just because like my phone often dies on me because of the cold and stuff, so I'd like to have a manual option. You can use a compass as well, but basically what you're looking for, if you're looking for that 30 degree or above, so you're looking to measure the angle to see like to see what it is. The more you do it, the better you'll develop your eye for it, and the better you can have a feel for like where you're traveling in the mountains. But I like to just keep it on me pretty handy, and then what you'll do is you'll take usually the bottom of your inclinometer here, line it up with a slope that you're looking at from the side. It's a pretty key point. You have to be able to look at it from the side to measure like what slope angle that might be. So what do you guys got there? 25-ish. Yeah, 25-ish. I'm looking at like 26, 27.
So the one of the second lift is about 20.
Yeah, I'm looking at where that lift's at, kind of on the horizon, where it's like a nice clean line.
Yeah.
I can easily measure up, line up my inclinometer. Like, okay, yeah, we're looking at 26, 25, something like that. You got one in front of us here. You know, we got a nice one over there as well. So if you guys want to borrow this and kind of play around with it, this is a pretty key tool And there is some, you know, it isn't the most accurate necessarily in the world. It's just a good way to get a general idea of what a slope angle might be. So when you are traveling, and I, you know, anything I've learned, it's because I've made a mistake on it, you know? And I think a mistake that I used to make, or newer skiers often make, it's like, okay, I measured the slope, I looked on Caltopa or whatever, I saw this was like 32 degrees. Like, I feel pretty good about that or whatever. It's like, well, you know, you want to think about, like, you're basically betting your life on this. Do you really want to bet your life on a couple, like, thinking that you got it exact down to the degree of the slope? Well, maybe depending on the conditions, we're not quite doing that. Like, I have a tendency, I like to use them to get a general idea, but I'm not like, oh, that's not a 35 degree slope, that's a 32 degree slope. I feel good about, you know, you want to be pretty sure if you're going to hop on a slope if it's bad avalanche conditions. So you get a chance to look at that at all? Yeah. So we got another one right here in front of us. That's even more low angle. You guys measure that one straight in front of us?
Yeah, like 20.
Yeah, it's looking like 20 degrees. Not one out in the distance where that plane's going.
That's like 24.
Yeah, it's still looking pretty low angle. So as we're traveling through here, like, feeling pretty good about at least traveling underneath these slopes right here. If this had way more snow on it, maybe not, right? Because it's like steep and rocky kind of up top.
Now they say like for the slope angle, because it goes up to what, like 45, and then after 45 the risk drops again. Is that just because snow doesn't stick?
Yeah, you know, and 45 is like kind of a loose number there too. I've certainly skied slopes that are like in the 50 range and still hold snow. But like, yeah, once you start getting into 55, 60 degrees, like, it's hard for the slopes. First of all, it's hard to even ski them. Like, I'm not skiing that kind of stuff. Maybe somebody else.
Not that FIM World Tour status.
Yeah,
You're not that guy.
I'm not quite that good a skier. But yeah, in general, like that, you're starting to get into, like, this is more like technical climbing range, and it's much harder for a slope to hold that snow. So oftentimes it'll shed more, but that doesn't mean it won't necessarily avalanche. And it doesn't mean, like, maybe we can't ski, but we could certainly get under it. I've seen plenty of avalanches where, you know, you get snow piling up on cliffs, all of a sudden they shed and create an avalanche. Especially because, like what we talked about earlier, that kind of weaker snow trigger points being under, you know, near rock bands and stuff like that. So yeah, it's important to be aware. It's like, okay, that's probably steeper and rocky up there, but if it had a bunch of snow on it, and we're getting active wind loading, active snow, like, definitely want to be heads up, because there's this thing called the run out angle. Are you guys familiar with that at all? Or run out? Like, basically, how far is the avalanche going to travel if it occurs, you know? So we might be underneath the slope that is avalanche terrain, but if we're far enough away from it, depending on what the path looks like. What's up, dog? Yeah. You want to travel in a way that you're out of that run out. It's just safe travel techniques. You know, you want to set yourself up for success. The way I look at it.
Good morning.
Morning.
He's a fun sniffing out dog. Get your loves, buddy. Oh.
The way I kind of look at it is like, you're gonna make mistakes. Like, the only way, like I said before, like, not the only way, but a lot of my knowledge and experiences come from making mistakes. The goal is to, like, set yourself up in a way that if a mistake or miscalculation occurs, that you're not going to die. So, like, say we're traveling underneath a slope, it's a bad hazard day, and the slope releases. We want to make sure that we're traveling outside that run out path so that if it does slide, we're not going to get buried over in this terrain trap over here. You know, we're not going to be directly under the slope and then all, you know, because they move fast. I mean, it's water. It moves incredibly fast. It has a ton of force. Like the most benign 6-inch slab has more force than you could imagine as far as like trying to stand up and brace yourself. You're like, oh yeah, I got this. It's like, no way, just push you right over. So, and it doesn't take that much snow to bury you, you know. And avalanches gain a lot of, you know, depending on how big the path is. Like, you know, these are big faces. If that whole thing slid for some reason, that's a ton of snow. So being aware of that is really important. And you can also measure that run out angle by taking your inclinometer with a buddy, or measure the run out angle of where you're at by taking the inclinometer, lining kind of the top up like you're looking down a gun sight, basically, and having a buddy, if someone wants to come over here and try to read this for me, look at that number for me.
About
23?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember. I think the max run out angle is like 8. So if you're like in the 17 range or something like that, you're likely never going to get hit by the avalanche. But, you know, 20 degrees, if that whole slope slid, that might hit us, you know. So that's a little bit more complicated. It is important to know, though, because you do want to know how far these things are going to slide if they do slide. Am I worried about like that totally bare piece of ground up there with, you know, a ridge line that's 20 degrees going to slide all this way? No, but if it went big historically or something, it could hit us. I would recommend to start to like go out in conditions that are pretty benign. Get a feel for the snow, and then kind of. It is important to get out when avalanches can occur and travel safely through them, but recommend starting slow and then kind of like slowly progressing through it. But let's get talking.
We've been walking on the cat track. It's been pretty good. Nice bluebird day. No concern so far. We're like, okay, we're getting to something a little steeper here, right? Like, okay, I got the slope in front of me. Not really sure how steep it is. You know, you kind of look at it. You're like, okay, yeah, it's still like in the 20 range. If you're right next to the slope, the best way to measure that slope is to lay down your pole. Take your inclinometer and rest it on your pole. This is a bad example just because of like the ski track right here. But you lay down your pole so your inclinometer doesn't sink all the way in the snow. And you kind of lay it on your pole. You're like, okay, that's like 16 degrees. So I'm like, man, I don't know, you know, I'm still not feeling good about it, whatever, you know. So then we decide like, okay, we're gonna travel across the slope here. I'll go first, but let's spread out as we travel across the slope, and when I get to the end, I'll wave you over. And so I think more than anything when you're traveling around in the backcountry, like good communication is super vital. You know, we want to make sure everyone knows the plan and we're all on the same page about the plan. And it, much like you know, I don't know what kind of jobs you guys do or what professions are, but like much like in a work environment, like everyone should have a voice, you know, especially traveling in the backcountry. If you're not feeling good about something, if it's not something you're psyched on, or if you see something that is maybe getting your hackles up, like definitely communicate that. Like, and I think the best thing that's helped me to feel more confident in communicating with travel partners or people I'm traveling around in the backcountry with is like knowing what I'm looking at.
because I've certainly been in situations where like, man, I don't feel good about this, but I don't know why. And trying to communicate that to someone who's like feeling really psyched, you know, maybe they're powder hungry, maybe they want to get to the summit, whatever. That can be pretty tough because they'll be like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, so I think, yeah, the more knowledge you can get for that, but like, yeah, communicating, especially if you're not feeling good about something, especially if you see something like one of those red flags we're talking about, and you know, same thing with travel. Like, okay, I think we should spread out here. Let's travel across the slope one at a time. I'll go first. I'm gonna go to that next tree over there, and then I'll wave the next person over, and then the next person will do the same thing. Or when we're using your poles, you know, like I will generally do like one of these waves, like, hey, I'm all good, you know. That means like don't go for some reason. Maybe I ran into a really loaded spot that I'm super worried about now and I need to hike back up, or maybe there's a cliff right there. And then if you're gonna direct somebody like this, which is not something I do a lot of, but if you're gonna do that, only direct people towards where you want them to go. Not, you know, I think there's maybe some confusion. It's like, oh, don't go that way, or you're like, oh, don't go that way. It's like, well, did that mean don't go that way, or like bad go that, you know? So I would say in general rule of thumb, if you're gonna be like, hey, you know, point somewhere to guide somebody, only point them towards like something positive. So it's like, you know, hey, I'm all good. Or people will do this too. I usually do like the one, all good, you can come move, you know, don't go, or go that way. So, hey you guys, I'm gonna turn around here, travel this way. We'll practice traveling one at a time. And you know, if you are worried about traveling across the slope, kind of keeping your head on a swivel, still looking around. There's also a good opportunity, you know, to get into some fresh snow here that's been undisturbed and kind of poke around. You know, use your pole, poke around in it, flip it over, you know, just kind of get a feel for the snow. Like, not all of it's going to tell you all the information you want to know, but just getting an understanding of like doing a pole plant test can be super useful. Alrighty, moving. One of our tools we can use, you know, in addition to like looking at the weather, assessing terrain, travel techniques, we can assess the snowpack. That's another part of our triangle, right? And the way we can do that is by digging a snow pit. So when we're looking to dig a snow pit, basically some key points that we're looking for. We want a slope that's representative of the slope that we're going to ski. For instance, if I want to ski something over there, it wouldn't really make sense for me to dig a pit right here because it's on a totally different aspect. It's getting hit by the sun right now, for instance. It's at a different elevation if I wanted to go ski up there. And so it's not going to represent like what I'm trying to look at. You know, we were, even us just traveling around back there, going through some of those icy patches, going through a little bit of powder right here and stuff, like the snow is super variable. And so when we're making decisions, I kind of want to emphasize this right off the bat too. Like the snow pit, it's not a tool we're using to make a go decision. And what I mean by go decision is like, all right, I dug this snow pit, I got positive feedback on my test, I'm gonna go and ski that slope. The snow pit for me, and it should be for everyone, I believe, and I think a lot of people believe this as well, it's only to determine whether or not there's a no-go decision. Because if we see something in our snow pit that's telling us not to go ski the slope, then we really need to listen to that. For instance, if there's propagation in the test, or we're seeing a bunch of facets. So when I was a young Avalanche professional, I made the mistake of like digging pits and being like, all right, like pit's good, we're good to go, you know, and that's really not the right way to look at it. And I learned that because I made a mistake and did things wrong. So when you're looking at where you want to dig, first of all, you want to kind of get your probe out, probe around, look for a decent depths of snow. You know, right over there, only got 20 centimeters of snow. Not a very good snow fit. A little bit more right here, 60, 65 centimeters. Hopefully, we can get a little bit to look at, because you want to be like looking at the snow and being able to assess it instead of just like not having nothing to look at. You want to make sure also that it's kind of respectful. We don't want to dig this right in the middle of like the most popular run, where everyone's making turns, and put this big hole in the middle of the slope that someone could it gets super foggy and really low vis here, and someone could crash into that and really hurt themselves. So yeah, you want to be respectful about it. You want to think about like what your location is. Is it at a right elevation aspect that's representing what I want to see, or representing what kind of information I'm trying to gather? Because you don't always have to dig pits to gather information just to go and see. People use them to like kind of just track the snowpack in general and take a look at things. It's kind of fun, so yeah, you kind of suss out. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so if we were going, this is different than Syria. Let's say we're going to Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
Where along that route would you be doing the trip?
So there's kind of like, you'll oftentimes see people kind of doing them, kind of off to the side of like the skin track or something on the way up along the ridge line, or not in the trees but kind of near the trees.
So the idea to do the snow pit, I think I missed the intro.
That's all good.
The idea is to do the snow pit like midway through the slope. You're going to be skiing down, or at the bottom, or at the top, or
yeah. The idea is to do it. The idea is to do it on a slope that's representative of what you're seeing, and so that is going to be like variable and dependent. You don't like snow pits all the way up top on a ridge line aren't necessarily they don't necessarily make sense.
Because you're already up there.
Because you're already up there, and then there's also a lot of wind loading that occurs. So you'll get a bunch of snow that loads in these areas, and it's like that. Okay, well, but that's specific to that one spot, And so, like when we're digging snow pits, we're looking for those weak layers, and oftentimes those weak layers will still be at those upper elevation bands, even if we're digging at like a mid-level elevation band. So it kind of just depends. There's a lot of questions that are often answered in the avalanche world with it depends, because it really is this super dynamic environment, and it's kind of hard to think about it that way. But
well, that's okay. You can tell people in the next class that that's the most common answer in law school.
There you go. It depends.
It's never yes or no.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's never like a go, no go. It's like it always kind of depends. Like even if we found that this slope right here was totally safe, that doesn't necessarily mean that next gully over is exactly the same as what we found here. That also doesn't necessarily mean that there's not like a bunch of wind-loaded snow that's been deposited in an area a little bit higher, versus like this is a pretty clean looking canvas right here. So yeah, it really does just depend. The main things are, you want to, like, wherever you're digging, you want it to be on like a similar aspect, hopefully close to a similar elevation of what you're trying to see. You want it to be like not under trees where snow might just fall off the trees, because that's not like really representative. You want it to be like not where a bunch of ski tracks are, so where you want it undisturbed, kind of like the clean place that you look at the snow. And then as far as our size of snow pit, you generally want these to be about 150 centimeters in width here, about that long. Because we're gonna do a few different things. So right off the bat, kind of see shallow snowpack, not a lot of snow. So when we're digging these snow pits, again, we're trying to gather information. And like, okay, what are we trying to gather information about? So what we're trying to look at when we're assessing the snowpack is we're trying to look at the strength of the snowpack, how strong it is, its structure. So what has to do with like the different type of snow, like our strong snow over weak snow, we're looking for the slab, right? And then how much energy the snowpack has. We could have a slab, but if that slab isn't cohesive enough, if it isn't stiff enough to transfer energy through the snow, then it might not matter that there's a slab there. So that the slab is important. So strength, structure, energy.
Is there like a middle weak zone there, or is it just?
Yeah. So right off the bat, right? Like we can kind of, if you guys want to come over here. Yeah, right off the bat, it's kind of hard to see with the shadow, but you can kind of see the line of where the weak snow is. It looks like a slab, like right on top there, right? A little bit. So when you're digging these things, you want at least one side wall. Like, let me start over here. So we've got our length. We want 150 centimeters, and we want at least 30 centimeters deep for our test. You know, it's nice to try to have two walls. I started digging over here. It's a little bit more shallow, so I moved it over here. But if you can kind of get two walls going too, if you're wanting to do more tests, I would say that's definitely worth it. But you want at least one of these walls that is like nice and clean that you can kind of play around with. Because the first thing we want to do is we want to look at our structure. And so the way we're doing that is kind of initially look in, first of all, like, oh, okay, I see where there's a change in the snow. We want to look for those density changes in the snow. We want to look for that, again, that strong snow over weak snow. These like big sugary grains versus those kind of tightly compact rounds that create the slab. And we'll use the sidewall to do that. It might be kind of hard to see. If we can kind of get you guys a little bit over here, just so you can see what I'm doing here. But, so we do these hand hardness tests. I don't know if you guys have heard about these, but yeah. But even before that one, you're kind of just feeling the snow.
Okay.
So what you do is you're putting pressure on the snow with either a fist, 4 fingers, 1 finger, a pencil, or a knife to test the hardness of the snow. And so what we're looking for is, again, those changes within the snowpack, those density changes, where there's like that harder slab over that softer snow. And very scientific, we use our hand with the pressure. The pressure you want to apply is about the pressure it takes to kind of like just push down the cartilage of your nose. Very scientific. But the main thing to take away from this is however much pressure you do, and it should be as close, you know, to that as you can. Like just kind of everyone take their fist and kind of like push on your nose a little bit with the front part of your fist. You know, kind of smashing that cartilage a little bit. You just want to keep that consistent, like with all the tests that you're doing. And again, when we start doing the taps thing, we want to keep that consistent as well. Because my taps are maybe not going to be the same as your taps, maybe not going to be the same as your taps, but as long as they're consistent for yourself, we're gathering good data. You know? Okay. So, yeah, what we're looking at to start, like, okay, like I can see these lines in the snow already. That's like a heads up for sure. So we kind of test the structure right away. You can kind of tell that there's a little crust right here. It's probably like some sun effect, you know. But yeah, just kind of start pushing on it. Well, it's like a little, maybe that's more like 4 finger out, getting a little bit firmer. A little bit sugarier. There's not a ton of snow, but basically what what we were able to tell here is that like this stuff right here, that is obviously fast. You know, that's what fastest looks like. This sugary, big grain snow. Front V, angular, is sitting underneath kind of this firmer slab right here. And there's like a pretty, looks like there's even a little crust in there. On top. So you're initially gathering that information, but this is a good representation of like what a slab might look like on top of really weak, sugary snow. So, like if there was enough snow that had, you know, some energy to it, and it was triggered by a skier, it could potentially cause an avalanche. It's not a ton of snow, you know, it's not like we're on this big connected slope or anything. You know, this is a safe, Another thing that's really important when you're digging a pit, make sure you're in a safe spot. Don't be digging like in the middle of, you know, some big avalanche path that's super touchy. Like that's super important after I mentioned this. But most important thing, make sure it's safe. But you know, we're looking at the structure currently, and I don't know. What would you guys say the structure is like?
The structure?
Yeah. Is it like a good structure, poor
No,
structure?
Terrible structure.
Yeah, it's just terrible, right? Like we have really weak snow with strong snow on top. So it's like, okay, that's initially like.
I mean, is that kind of why we punch through?
Exactly. Yeah, this is like a good representation of why we do those pole plant tests.
Yeah.
And it's not every single time that you do that you're gonna be like, oh, this is like,
Yeah.
Terrible structure, bad avalanche, whatever. But it is gathering more information. So like this is kind of what we're looking at when we're like, okay, we're in that slab, boom, we punch through into that weak snow. This is what it's looking like. So that's a good point.
Because if it was all like, even when we very first started, I mean, if over on the other slope, even if it was more of that bonded snow, it just seems like you wouldn't have like fallen through like so quickly with your skis, or just in little spots here.
Like
There can be a little like sun layer too, though, right?
like over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of seems like there's a little crust and stuff, but like if the snow was all the same, all homogeneous,
Right.
then we wouldn't be punching through it either.
Yeah,
And
right.
so, if you have 6 feet of snow that's homogeneous, no weak layer underneath, that's good skiing. That's what we're looking for, right?
Mhm.
This is the kind of stuff we want to really be heads up for, though. Is this really weak, sugary snow underneath the slab and also in a shallow snowpack? Because the shallower it is, the more easily we can affect it with our bodies. You have like this pressure bulb basically that sits under your skis, and that's like the amount of force that's being driven through the snow. And once that pressure bulb kind of hits one of those trigger points, that's when you could start an avalanche. Cool. So that's like so right off the bat, we're like, okay, the structure is pretty poor. Like that's heads up for me if I'm trying to go skiing. Like maybe I'm not as psyched about that for sure. Then there's some other tests we can do to take a look at it. These fancy snow saws here. Take these and we'll start to look at the other components of our snowpack. We have structure, poor structure, strength, and then energy. So the next piece is going to be looking at the strength with our compression test, and that's kind of where we start looking at the taps. Initially, before you do that, you got to isolate that column, and this is part of the reason we dig at 150. We'll start by cutting out a little 30 centimeter slice. This can kind of give us some information as well. It's called a shovel shear test. It's really not one of the official tests, but it can kind of just let us know, you pry it out and see if it, kind of pops.
Jeez, it's totally like a cake thing.
Like a cake.
Wow.
And so when we kind of pried on that, you kind of see it also like broke on that weak layer. And so then what we can look at is like the quality of how it broke too. So we can see it broke, but the shear quality is like kind of dirty, it's like not like this really clean, planar. When you see like clean planar break and it has energy and like pops out of there like a cash register, huge heads up for sure. But it's kind of fun to pull these out, look at the snow grains. I mean, you guys take a look here, take a look at all those facets. You can take this block and pass it around even. Look at that weak snow might look like.
Yeah, this really hot.
Now, is the fastest caused by like cold temperatures? What else? Like moisture in the air that kind of condenses overnight, that type of stuff.
That can cause surface hoar when there's
Yeah.
like moisture in the air, creates those big feathers.
Mhm.
Yeah, cold temp, no wind, a lot of humidity. That can create, which is
Okay.
a really dangerous weak layer.
Yeah.
But yeah, facets in general are being created by those cold temps. And the snow kind of transforming. So kind of like one of our unofficial tests there, but I do think it's like worth noting if you do get that kind of cash register pop out, and it kind of also helps you see like, okay, like where might be my, when I'm looking at doing my test, where might a break or a fracture occur, just kind of right off the bat. But really what this does is give us space to do our first test here. So then our compression test would be a 30 by 30 block here.
Oh, you said you started at 150. You said.
I make the whole thing 150. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because then for our final test, the extended column test, you'll need a 90 centimeter by a 30 centimeter. I don't have a string on me, unfortunately. I don't know if we can do that, but we'll talk about it anyways. And if you brought a snow study kit, did you?
On my list of things.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I goofed up this morning. I forgot my string, but we'll talk about it. Because it is pretty, you know, especially for this fundamentals course, like getting into the weeds about some of these tests isn't as important. You know, more what you guys need to focus on is like your travel techniques, what terrain you're going into, understanding the forecast, you know, and understanding when there are red flags and there are dangerous things going on. Initially, right off the bat, pits are kind of funny. I have, you know, like I said before, when I was younger, I was like, oh man, pits are like, man, they're the shit, right? They tell me what I need to know. It lets me know if I can go ski the slope. I want to be rad, go ski some cool stuff. But in reality, like, to effectively get information from pits, you have to dig a lot of them quickly and kind of like spread out that information all over the place. And their pertinency is variable for, you know, because we're talking about like, oh, where do you dig it? Well, it's like, yeah, I want to go ski up there, but like, am I going to go to the top up there and dig a pit? So take it with a grain of salt, but it is important.
Yeah.
Because if you do get information that is super scary and lets you know that this is a really poor snowpack, then they are important. They're important to look at the snow.
Have you been skiing in a situation where partway up a slope you decided to dig one of these pits and you're like, okay, wow, this new information, the snow does have the weak leg or the fastest, now I'm going to turn around and go down?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and when I'm traveling up that slope, we're doing safe travel techniques.
Yeah.
Though too. So it's like, okay, yeah, I went up this ridge line, you know, kind of stepped off the beaten path, dug my pit to take a look around. Oh wow, I saw some really concerning things. Not super psyched about it. I don't think it's something that I can manage effectively. And like, yeah, let's just go back down, ski the skin track down or whatever, as long as it's safe.
Okay.
So yeah, it is a good decision-making tool, re-emphasizing that it's a no-go decision-making tool, not a go decision-making tool, because I don't think you gather enough information from this to be like, okay, yes, this slope is solid, I'm good to go. But it can be super useful, and I think it can help like throughout the season as well, help you determine like what the snow's doing, and just keep you informed. I think there's a lot of little things, a lot of information, and feedback you're trying to receive, and just the more you can get, the better off you'll be.
You could almost see immediately that first top
Yeah.
layer.
Yeah, that little crust.
Would that be something you'd be concerned about, or you're like, all right, it's only an inch thick? It's
You know,
energy in
I shadowed a course last year, and this Swedish guy, Frederick, he's like super dialed, PhD in chemistry, really smart guy, been Avalanche
Yeah.
professional for years and years and years. And students were, had the same question, like, what's up with this top layer? Like, is this something that we need to be concerned about? Like, is this a slab? It immediately moved while you were, kind of cutting and stuff. I would definitely describe this more as a crust than like a slab. It's like, okay, well, why wouldn't a crust like act like a slab if it's, cohesive like that? And the way he described it, I thought it was really cool. And it goes along with when our skis were walking through some of this stuff, and it is cracking, but it's not like shooting cracks and stuff. You're like, well, what's that cracking? Yeah. And I think that the difference being is like this kind of acts more like a piece of styrofoam, where if you're affecting that styrofoam, it kind of just snaps and doesn't have the ability to carry that energy through the snowpack. Because basically, not to get too crazy about it, but you have this slab, you push on one part of it, right, and it collapses this weak layer. Well, that's basically starts this wave that continues to collapse the weak layer throughout until it breaks out in this piece and then all comes down. And these, like, at least this is very specific for like this piece of snow right here. I want to make that very clear. Not all crusts are created equal or anything like that, but in a situation like this, it's like that it doesn't have that ability to to create that wave. It just kind of breaks. It's too brittle. It doesn't have slab characteristics. The slab is important.
So say we get 18 inches of fresh snow tonight.
Yeah.
Would that then be the concerned layer
Potentially.
underneath of it because it's so weak?
Well, and we'll see. But yeah, whatever the snow falls on top of could potentially be our layer of concern, because there's that density change too. Like, this is really stiff. That snow is going to be a different density likely. If it has wind on it too, this could become your new bed surface. What the snow is going to slide on, because this could be where the snow fails, but it still needs something to slide on, which is called the bed surface. So it just depends. Yeah, like you'd have to come back out here, dig a pit, assess the snowpack. Maybe it doesn't break here. Maybe the crust goes with it and it breaks down here. It's really hard to say until you see what that top layer of snow is doing. But say like there was a bunch of surface hoar on top here, and then 18 inches fell on top. I'd be super concerned about that new weak layer. Whatever's today's surface is going to be, tomorrow's kind of weak layer or bed surface. So that's a good question though. So then with these compression tests, you isolated your column here, and then you start the super sciencey part of doing the taps. So you take a shovel, put it on top here, and when we're doing these taps, you're basically trying to let gravity use the weight of your hand, the weight of your arm, and then the weight of your whole arm to affect the snow. And the reason it's done like that, again, is to like keep that consistency, because I could tap many different ways with a lot of different force, and there's no way of me like knowing exactly how much force I'm applying. So the idea is that you're keeping it consistent, so that when you kind of divulge this information to others, or keep it for your own records or whatever, it's easy to understand, instead of being like, well, was I doing this much force that time? If that makes sense. They call it beer science, because it kind of is a lot of it depends. But all right, here we go. So if you guys want to come over here, just so you can see, what we're looking for basically is if the snow is going to break somewhere, where might it break?
Yeah, I know, right? Okay. They're coming over here. Okay.
to hang out, Tim?
What?
Coming to hang out?
Just kind of using you as a landmark for our safe zone.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's pretty safe over here.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go down.
Sweet. So I'd start with the hand, come down from the elbow, and then come down from the shoulder. And we're doing 10. Sorry?
I was gonna ask you how many.
Yeah, 10 taps. Yeah. And then, yeah, if you guys can kind of help me just try to keep an eye out. I know it's kind of hard with the shadows and stuff, but if you see a crack or a shift, that's kind of what we're looking for.
Nice.
I'm totally not used to like.
It's brutal snow
Snow like
conditions. Yeah, bustable crust. The worst conditions you could ski in.
That and like powder.
Yeah.
It's like.
Now, what do you do if you don't get
crazy.
nothing?
Nice.
So if you don't get nothing, you would write that down as like CTX.
Oh my gosh. I'm exhausted.
But,
too, 'cause it's just, like,
you know, basically, although we have poor structure, the snowpack has decent strength. But just because it has decent strength doesn't mean that it's still like a go situation, right? It just means that, yeah, this weak layer is kind of dormant right now potentially. And with our next test, if it were to propagate through, that would tell us how much energy it has. But you know, it's like out here, pretty variable snow. A lot of it's stripped. A lot of it's like, you know, weird. Without like more snow and wind loading or something to trigger that, I was hoping we get at least something. But I like to get a big waxy cut.
Yeah.
So kind of got a
little
shift
bit,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole other skill set.
But you know, this is still.
I like the challenge.
This is still.
It
a
breaks
heads up,
where
right?
that
Like,
it breaks where that layer is, though.
yeah.
That was a lot more.
So that's a little cleaner
Oh,
too,
yeah.
right? So you can kind of see these big old
Right?
gases.
Sometimes it's good.
Still a heads up situation. Well, and really what this would tell me is like if we were to get more snow and a bigger load, like this would be pretty concerning for sure.
How long will that layer persist? I mean, I know there's a lot of variables.
It could be all season. Yeah. Coming from like New Mexico, Utah, they never get rid of those layers. Basically until the snowpack becomes isothermic or like gets enough water through it to make it all homogeneous and uniform again. Sometimes, you know, the nice thing about up here is basically that, or at least in Turnagain, you get so much snow that oftentimes what resets the snowpack is these layers get buried. So, but you need like 8 feet of, you know, 8 feet of snow, and even then, like if there's a shallow spot near a cliff or something, you know, that could be a trigger point, propagate the whole slope. So that's why we do these tests. Unfortunately, I did you guys a disservice and I forgot my string. But you would do that exact same test, not that exact same test, that style of test. On a 90 530 block here. I wonder if I could maybe get top right here. I'll try and make it straight first block. You wouldn't use your saw. You would take
So it's like bringing your nose
your probe,
out, like you're like, oh, I can't even do this, and then you dig yourself into a hole.
get one of those strings, and either have another probe or a buddy, and you would saw it in this motion to isolate this block here, so that you have this 90 centimeter block that we can see like again, we're looking for that energy to be transferred through the slab. And if there's any ever propagation, like, don't ski the slope. Propagation is very bad. That's like how.
Wait, what's propagation again? Sorry.
Propagation means that, like, the energy travels through the snowpack and collapses this whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, if it propagates, like
Okay.
instead of just this column collapsing, it's like this big piece of snow. And so, yeah, propagating is basically like kind of what I was talking about earlier, where one spot collapses and then it propagates or collapses and moves through that entire piece of slope.
Okay.
I don't know if we're be able to get. It's not the right way to do the test. Don't do this way, but it's the same idea. You would start on this end after you've isolated your whole block with your string. Make sure I got this.
Okay, everybody, from here we're gonna.
And yeah, we're testing the energy, like how much. So structure's poor, strength right now appears to be decent, right? Even though the structure's super poor. Now we're trying to see if it's going to propagate through the slope.
Okay, I'm just gonna kind of try and easily, cautiously move this way. Oh, really? Was it that bad?
So we had a little collapse here.
And then like a crack thing,
Yep.
Yeah.
right?
So that's good to know, right?
Oh.
So I would call this, what was that on the second one for the shoulder? So that'd be, it failed at 22 smacks. And so you differentiate each test by 10, right? So the first 10 is the hand, the second 10 is from the elbow, and that third 10 is from the shoulder. So if it were, we'd call this extended column test, ECT, N, the N meaning no propagation, because it didn't, although it broke here, it didn't propagate through the entire slope, which is what we're looking for on this disc. But it is worth noting that it did break at 22 hits. If it propagated, it'd be ECTP, extended column test propagation, or propagating at 22. And so when you see ECTP, that's a big heads up. You're looking at reading the forecast, looking at the snow pits and stuff, like that's the kind of stuff you're looking for. Like, is it, you see ECTP 8 or ECTP 2 or something, you're like, okay, that failed and propagated after 2 little wrist slaps, basically. That's scary, right? But, CTX, nothing happened, column test X, and, compression test X. I always get confused with. And then right now we have ECTN 22. Not super important. What you guys need to know, is that if something like that happened and it propagated across here, that's a big red flag for sure. Yeah, that's main takeaways here. Propagation bad, structure bad. But that could also be just because I didn't have my string either. You guys, does that kind of make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
A little bit, what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And again, to start for you guys, the more important things are looking for those red flags, good travel techniques, staying out of steep, dangerous terrain when conditions are bad, that kind of thing. And really, this course is to introduce you to all this so that you're thinking about these things and you can move forward and try to practice these things.
I was just thinking, even if you don't have a time to build the whole pit, or maybe this was in the workbook, you could tell if you were I don't know, skinning up or whatever, right? And you can just see what the
I
structure
saw a
of
video that the guy did it with a pole, just a quick square, and then
Yeah, can I see your pole really quick? Yeah, it's called a hand shear test. Yeah, basically like you would dig out with your hand, you know, you want to try to get to the layer you're worried about, like you're worried about affecting.
Yeah.
And then usually, the way I've always done it, some people do it different ways, but stick the pole in, kind of slice it out like that. And I like to slice it in the back like that. And I stick it on the other. First scene safety. Is there going to be another avalanche that's going to be started if I go in there, go on the slope? If you both get buried, no one's getting saved, kind of thing. Second thing, let's go to the last point seen. The last point you saw them, you go straight to that point. You don't even need to pull your beacon out yet, because you know they're not there. So you go right to where you last saw them. After that, that's kind of when you pull your beacon out and start doing your search. And when you're moving down a slope, do you guys know how you would kind of search a path if you're moving down a slope with your beacon?
you probably want to zigzag.
Yeah. You're kind of doing this zigzag pattern because avalanche debris is pretty rough. Honestly, I don't know if you guys have ever been on it, but it's like there's so much energy in avalanches that it heats the snow up and then it refreezes pretty rapidly. And then you're basically skiing on these icy chunks. It's really hard to ski. So if you can get good, at going back and forth across the slope and creating a search pattern to effectively search the slope, that's the way to do it for sure. All right, boom, get a signal, and I start following that signal. Number's getting smaller, all of a sudden number gets bigger. What do I do? Turn around. Go back to the smaller number.
The smaller number means you're closer to the person.
Yeah.
Oh, like when we did the test of the person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you're following, you know, they've got arrows.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about those arrows is, I don't know if you guys saw that drawing I made earlier, but you know, this beacon has these flux lines like this, and it's like in the shape of an apple, you know. And so what will happen is you'll pick up the furthest flux line. You'll start following that. If you follow the arrow, it could potentially bring you all the way down here, and then you could get way below your partner. I recommend just following the numbers first, and then once you guys get better with it, kind of incorporate the arrows, because the arrows can be deceiving. The number, you want to go towards the smallest number. That's not going to lie to you, you know, unless you have some sort of interference. So following that smallest number, and then when you get to about 3 meters toward your target, that's kind of when you pop out of your skis and slow things way down. So we're starting kind of that zigzagging motion down the slope, right? We're like, boom, got a signal, come back in, move to the smallest number, 3 meters. All right, pop out of my skis, still got my beacon out. And when you're moving with your beacon, try to keep it like in the same position all the time. Like what I'll do, my personal preference is to like put it right here in my belly button and just rotate with that. Because if you're changing the orientation of these things, they're pretty sensitive and they can get confused really easily. Like I made a mistake when I was a young patroller. I was like, oh well, like I'll just like move this thing around like this so that I can double check to make sure it's not behind me, and then just like come back here. And that would just really screw with it and really throw off my beacon searches. So kind of right here, doing my zaws, doing my zigzags across the slope. Like, okay, boom, 3 meters, down low. Then you get out of your skis and you're kind of like going right up against the snow when you're searching for that thing. You're like looking for it. Okay, I got 0.1. Go a little bit further. Oh, that's 0.2. Go straight back to the smallest number. Come back this way. Oh, that's 0.2. And you kind of do this like box method where you're essentially creating this box with these being the outer numbers being kind of the bigger numbers, and the middle being like the smallest number that you can find.
Now, does that tell you like 0.1 in a vertical sense, or is it like if say they're 6 feet under?
Yeah.
Is it going to be 2 is going to be the smallest number you're going to see, or is it since you're directly on top of it?
Yeah, it depends on the orientation of like their beacon. You know, their beacon could be like head downhill kind of thing. Yeah, it's like in line with the beacon, basically. Yeah. You know, because sometimes what'll happen is I'll get like 0.3 right here, go up here and get 0.2, but that's just because like the characteristic of the slope changed or something, but it's actually kind of like,
Gotcha.
But you just go to the smallest number, and once you get that smallest number, once you've zeroed in, like doing this deal, then you get out your probe, and you start probing. And the way we want to probe, they've got 2 different methods. They have kind of the spiral method, which is my preferred method. And you kind of work your way in a systematic spiral around that lowest number until you get a strike. And this is where I see people kind of lose a lot of time or mess up the most, is they'll get in their minds that it's like, okay, I got the lowest number, like it has to be like right there, you know. And realistically, it could, the body position could be weird, there could be something going on. So keeping everything really systematic is kind of the best way. And I'll demonstrate this all too. So I know this is like probably sounding a little confusing right now, but yeah, you kind of do that spiral method. Come around, look for it, get a strike, you'll strike. And we're always going perpendicular to the slope as well. That's important. Not necessarily always straight in the flat, straight up and down, but if it were a slope, you want to go perpendicular to the slope for sure. Strike, you'll strike. Take like, you know, a little bit, take a step back, and then you want to start digging down and kind of towards the object. You don't want to dig straight down off the probe, because you're just going to run out of room and the digging's going to get a lot harder. It's much easier to move snow laterally than it is like trying to scoop it out, you know. It gets really difficult. Then once you dig your person out, what are some main concerns right off the bat?
And if they're still breathing?
Yeah, airway. Yeah. Try to make sure you get their airway. If you dig to their foot, try to get to their head, because the breathing's going to be the biggest, hopefully the biggest issue. Trauma can occur too, so if they're bleeding or something, try to stop the bleeding. But main takeaway is, like, if I dig out their foot, try to get to their head. Like we want to clear their airway and get them breathing again. So that's kind of a quick and dirty. I'll demonstrate so it makes a little bit more sense. You guys want to throw your pack really quick. Here really quick. 1, 2, 3, get your shovel and probe out.
Extended?
Extended. Shovel and probe extended. Nice. Shovel. Sweet. Nice. on the end. You grab the last round, pull, yeah, and then and pull that. There you go, and then just keep pulling on it. You don't even have, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry to make it.
No, it was just a fun little thing. It's really just to demonstrate like kind of the importance of where this stuff is at. You know,
Yeah, right.
these some of these packs have really nice outside pockets for their shovel and probe. Mine personally doesn't, but I kind of keep it in a spot that's easily accessible. And then these the probe, like deploying the probe. Mind if I steal yours really quick? A couple things to note here. Some of them are different. Like this one kind of has a plunger style, but most of them will have some sort of cable situation going on. It's pretty important, I think, to inspect the cable as well as these like plastic or rubber components that fit inside the metal parts of the probe. Over time, they just get damaged and wear out if you're using it a lot. But yeah, a good thing to note about the probe, best way that I've found to deploy it, I think we teach, is like you grab the last piece of the probe, grab the rest of it, but hang on to the last piece. Try to throw it downhill, and then like extend and pull as it's
Still in the air, kind of.
like being. You try to, you look real cool guy if you do it in the air, but like at least like downhill and kind of like moving it up and down, so as you're keeping that tension, so it tries to work its way back, instead of trying to like fit them together manually. The design is that pulling on the cable will align it and until it's all locked out. You need it to lock out as well. And then, yes, some of them have these string attachments that will also flip down in the probe. But yeah, good thing to practice, good thing to be proficient in, extending the probe. The probe back here.
I like that method. That's way better.
Yeah. Downhill is important too, because if you throw it uphill, it's going to try to come down. Put them all back. Little demonstration. Really, the best thing I found with any of the rescue stuff is it's all repetition. Like, and I don't know if you guys also noticed, but the sleeves are kind of a huge pain in the ass. So if you are like going in the backcountry, I would just ditch the sleeve for your probe. Unless you're really concerned about keeping the numbers super nice, but ultimately it's just another thing to have to worry about. So. I'm gonna walk a little bit this way when everybody's ready. Give us a little bit more space.
Which way?
Just kind of like up this way, so we're a little bit further from the. Never mind, leave it be. We'll do that after. I have to go. Cool. So we're at the top of the slope.
standing here, party of, we got 6, and our buddy goes first, triggers an avalanche. We last saw him at that other beacon pack right there. Then he went around the corner, don't see him anymore. So first thing first, make sure the scene is safe, make sure we're willing to go down in there. Do we want to send everyone down at once, or how do we want to?
Probably one.
Yeah, I would say, depends on how big the path is, but probably don't want to send everyone down in case, like, A, another avalanche is triggered, B, you know, we would like someone else to maybe help if we do have an in-reach or something, you know, start getting resources moving, but, you know, send one person down, and the first thing we'll do is we'll just all switch our beacons to search. And that way, whoever the first person is, if they're in search mode, they're not picking up somebody else, right? Sweet. We're all on search now. Cool. Everybody in search? Sweet. Is anybody picking up that other beacon? You are? No, it would give you a number.
I'm
It's
not.
like 55 feet.
55?
Yeah.
Let's walk this
Or not
way until we
55.
lose the 60. Everybody lose the signal? You got it?
I don't have it.
No. Cool. So this actually works out. As we walk that way, I'll have you guys walk with me as I demonstrate how to do the beacon go. But just keep an eye on when you first get that number, when it pops back up. And keep an eye on what that number actually is. Because all these beacons are different, and they all have different ranges. And it's kind of nice to just know when you're going to first pick something up, you know? So, all right, last point seen, that bag. I would go straight to that bag first before even looking at my beacon, you know? Even if I get a signal, I know he's not there. Wait, so some of you, it sounds like you're picking it up, huh? 71.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
not.
it's like 50, pretty far. I'm still not picking it up. So what I would do at this point is at my last point seen, I would begin doing those Z's, right? So I'm like, okay, let's just say, yeah. Once you have a number.
Okay.
So once, I'm like, okay, shit, I'm not picking it up. So I would begin my search. And what you're doing is you're zing back and forth to each side of the avalanche you're playing, as to not like pass by the person, basically. You don't have to go all the way to the edge. About you can be like 15 to 20 meters away from the edge, but you want to keep the spacing down to like 20 meters as far as how the spacing between your Z's. It'll make sense when I do this. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to the edge. Avalanche over here. Let's say that's still between tracks with my edge. I'm like, okay, I don't need to go all the way over there because I can still pick that up. Then I would go back the other way. And so when I come back on this C, I also want to make sure my last track is not more than 40 meters away, 20 this way, and then pointed this way. I'm like, okay, I'm making sure that it's not uphill me either. Walking in my lead, still listening, still walking. That rock, my other edge. Like, okay, the other way. See, I was picking up that plus line, following it back around, right? Well, now I lost the number. And so even if you pick up a number or lose it, you want to keep that same pattern going. You guys can come this way. Okay, numbers getting smaller. You guys can just follow me this way now. Yeah, 36, 30, okay. 33, bouncing around a little bit here. 28, okay. 26, 25. Kind of staying the number. 21, 18, 19, 16. 13, 11, 10, 12. 12 not right. Go back a little bit. 10, 9, 8, 7, 5, 3. All right. 3 meters. I'm popping out of my skis here. And give me a little space here.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Something to note, you manage that. You're on a steep slope. You see, you don't know if you can slide down the slope. 1 meter, 1.1, 0.5, 0.4, 0.3, 0.5. 11 feet far. Go back to 0.3. 0.4, 0.4. 6, no, that's not good. That's 24. 23. There's my smallest number. Alright, I'm gonna come down this way now. Oh, that goes to 0.5. That's not right. Back to 0.3. 0.5. Back to 0.3. 0.2.
It's 2. What does it say 20 something for?
0.2. Okay, 0.1 is my new
Oh,
smallest number.
0.1.
Now I'm gonna
Okay.
redo my grid to make sure this is the right one here. Alright, 0.1. Oh, 0.2, too far. Come back down. Oh, 0.2. Okay. Come back this way. 0.3. 0.4. Kind of mark my edge like that, you know? Alright, that's where I think it's at, right there. Strike! You guys saw, although my lowest number was right here, strike is heard over here. So if I would have got in my mind, oh, it's right there, it's right there, it's right there, I would have totally screwed my, and I even got worried too. I was like, oh man, did I just like mark it wrong? So I got a strike, yell strike! That's trouble. Send it. Take a step back. Start digging forward. Trying to move snow horizontally. Down and horizontally until you reach the throw and get the bag.
We can go back in the sand.
Make sense?
Sweet. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. That's gonna be a good way to practice.
So I noticed when you were right there, I was holding my beacon here, and I went up to scratch my nose with the beacon.
Yeah.
And it kind of like lost the 3 meter signal.
Yeah.
And went back to the long range signal just for moving it.
Yeah. No, it messes with them a lot, and also the orientation matters. You know, like because it's this circle around it. You know, like this, but like an apple. It's like the core of an apple, basically. So if you've got the apple like this, you're getting that nice piece right there. But if you turn it up like that, you may not be getting as much down there. Theoretically, it's supposed to be all encompassing, but I've noticed like moving these things around really alters them. So good demonstration of that. But cool. So that's what I'm looking for. We'll try to make it so you guys can practice doing a little bit of those Z's back and forth, but if you get a number, you go towards the smallest number. That's the main thing. And then really try to dial in those find searches. Does anybody have any questions about the find search? What I was doing to find this when I was over here? Like that movement or anything? Kind of makes sense. Once you get the small number, you check the perimeter basically to make sure that that's the smallest number, and if it's not, then you have a new smallest number and you check that perimeter, box it out. You know, you're trying to, it should be kind of on the back of your beacon too. They have some of them do, but yeah, mine's kind of listed here. There's got 0.7 in the middle and 1.2 on every side basically, so kind of demonstrates a little bit what I'm saying. I don't know if those would move ones out of it. Yeah. Well, if you guys want to head back and kind of keep your backs turned, I'll rebury this for somebody. Well, you ready?
Sure.
Sweet. Avalanche turn. Last point seen. It's going to be catwalk right there. Cat track.
Okay. The scene is safe.
Scene is safe.
What part of the cat track?
Just whenever you...
Search.
Strike.
That shit was tricky in there.
What's that?
So you could, you did a good job hiding that.
Nice. Cool.
How was that?
It was good, man. I got a few things for you. Keep your backpack on just
Okay.
until you like want to pull your stuff out.
It was because I got like, yeah, that's fair.
Until you get your lowest number,
Okay.
just keep that on, and then yeah, do it with gloves on too.
Yeah.
Because when you're gonna want to be, the one technique thing I saw that could use improvement was kind of like coming up and down with your beacon, which will change that number. You know, you want to be like right here.
Okay.
And having gloves on will help that.
Okay.
But other than that, looks good, man.
Yeah, this also stepping off the skis and not realizing how freaking deep it
Yeah,
was. Like,
yeah,
holy
totally,
shit.
right? So cool. You want to yeah, rebury that, make it look
Same place or different?
different place. Make it look tricky.
I got you.
Yeah. And, maybe I'll go try and bury the other one.